I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors over at Jim Dunlop and MXR Pedals. We couldn't be luckier to have these guys on board with us. I personally use these products, and you should too. Find out more about them at jimdunlop.com. Let's get on to the podcast. Hey guys, this is Zach from the Anti-Heroes podcast, and I want to welcome our newest sponsor to the show, DistroKid. DistroKid helps musicians get their music on all the major streaming platforms, and artists keep 100% of their royalties. Can you believe that? Anti-Heroes listeners get 30% off at distrokid.com/VIP/antiheroes. Again, that's distrokid.com/VIP/antiheroes. Thank you so much, and support all the folks at DistroKid because they're doing amazing work, and we couldn't be happier to have them on board. Hello, folks, and welcome to the Anti-Heroes podcast with your host, Zach Blair. I am Zach Blair. Hey there, how you doing? I'm so glad you have tuned in today because today my guest is Walter fucking Schreifels. It's hard to understate how influential Walter has been on punk rock and hardcore music. The guy is an innovator, and he's been in quite a lot of bands. Youth of Today, Gorilla Biscuits, Quicksand, Rival Schools, but one always gets not mentioned, and it's a band called Vanishing Life that I was in with Walter Schreifels. So please go out and listen to that record. We talk about that. You know, folks, one of the greatest things for me was meeting this guy. You know, I idolized him. As I've gotten a chance to interview a few people on here that I idolized, Stephen Edgerton, Brian Baker, Rob Flynn, Andy Kerr, and these guys that were sort of pivotal to my development, my playing, who I am as an artist. And Walter, geez, Quicksand Slip is one of my all-time favorite records. It's always in my top 5. It's a seminal record, in my opinion. And as I talk to Walter, you'll see, we talk about how influential it was in the 90s. We talk about how much, you know, I guess I saw a thing one time where it said sort of Quicksand invented nu metal, which I don't know if that's the truth. Nu metal is such a polarizing genre, but it was heavy without being metal. It had hardcore influences. It had heavy rock influences. It had shoegaze influences. It was sort of, there was grooves to it, for lack of a better word. It was just its own thing. It blew my mind as a kid because I bought it because we had been into Gorilla Biscuits, his hardcore band. And we expected it to sound like that, and it did not at all. But you could hear elements. It was really odd. The creativity that it took to come up with this thing that was so original and so different, and sort of the guts that it took to say, no, this is how we're going to sound. This is what we're going to do. And then everyone sort of ripped it off afterwards. And that was Walter. That's what came out of Walter's head and his heart. And I just always wanted to meet the guy. And I did, and it was a really big deal to me. And then I got to play with him, and now he's one of my very, very close friends. As I think you can tell in the conversation, the way we commiserate, the way we talk. I love the guy. If you are uninitiated, you don't know who Walter is, if you're listening to this podcast, I find that hard to believe, but do yourself a favor and pick up anything Walter's done. From when he was a kid in Youth of Today playing bass, to the Gorilla Biscuits, to Quicksand, to Rival Schools after Quicksand. It's all great. It's all Walter Schreifels. To Vanishing Life. It's all great, even though I was a part of it. If I do say so myself. I love the man, and I think you will too. So I'll shut up. I will get into my interview with Walter Schreifels. Hey, Walter.
Hey, Zach, what's happening, man? How are you?
How you doing, buddy? Thank you so much for doing this. I've probably already done a big intro where I talked and praised you and all that stuff. You know, at the jump here, I want to remind people that you and me put a record out together.
Yeah, really great record, actually.
I mean, right?
I think it's a little sung a little bit, but I have faith in the universe that it's going to be on these kind of lists of like, hey, this record's great, check it out.
Like, remember that? Well, hopefully this podcast will start that whole
Yeah,
process. It was a band called The Vanishing Life, and Walter and I did it together. It came out. When was that? 2016, maybe?
yeah, something like that. Yeah, not 10 years ago, but more than five.
Yeah, something like that. And then we just couldn't, because we're going to get into how busy you are, but because we're both busy, we just can't do it. And since that band, actually, Jamie Miller went on to play in Bad Religion, the
Uh
drummer,
huh.
and Audrey Fulbright, the bassist, ended up playing in Off, which are calling
Yep.
it quits very soon, sadly enough.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Archie's got his fingers in a lot of different things. He's super. He's in and around everything. He's just kind of a force. But yeah, Vanishing Life. The album is called Surveillance. It's a very cool, like heavy record, but punk and has some dissonance in it. I just think it's really, really great. But we didn't have like an opportunity to tour it too much, and
yeah,
so there's plenty of records out there in the world that are amazing. Not plenty, but there are a
yeah.
fair amount that people just don't catch up to until a later period of time. But I know that one's just sitting there, and it's awesome.
It's waiting. It's
It's
laying in
waiting to
wait.
be rediscovered. Yep.
Yeah. So we'll do a Vanishing Life tour at some point where people will be like,
Yep.
dude, I never thought you were gonna play.
We're waiting
Well,
for it to hit critical mass, and then
yeah,
we'll pull the trigger.
yeah. Well, for me, playing with you, I mean, we knew each other a bit before that band, but playing with you was such an honor because we are good buddies now. But I did comment you being such a fan because I was such a fan of Gorilla Biscuits when that was happening, when that record was coming out. And then, of course, you started Quicksand. And that just kind of, and I've told you this before, but that just kind of changed my life. I'm sure it changed a lot of people's lives. And it's so cool that you're doing that again.
Mm.
Um, is it, how is that going back to that style, that band, those, where now you are predominant, you are the only guitar player on stage.
Hmm.
For those uninitiated, Quicksand will play as a 3-piece and a 4-piece, but right now on this current tour, you're playing as a 3-piece. How is that for you as a player?
Well, I think initially, we kind of came back and just, played the old records. And, that was just super exciting because we hadn't played it in a long time. And, when we had broken up, I think it was a little dramatic, so it was nice to just reconnect with these guys and sort of make peace with some of that. But, went so well, we're like, if we want to play again, we're going to have to create something new because it's just going to be, it's just not going to feel right. So,
Right.
going back in and trying to sort of configure, what would be our kind of music and how does it fit in with the 220 teens, I guess, at that point was an interesting thing to try to do. But I think the chemistry was still there and we just really relied on that. And he said, if it sounds good to us, then, that's just going to be what it's going to be. And we'll live on that. So the first record we put out was Interiors, and it was really well received, and we toured the country and the fans love it. I think we made a lot of new fans.
Yeah.
And then, okay, well, can we do this again? Can we push further out? And then we did Distant Populations, and I think we were more focused and just had all that more experience. And right now, where we're at, it's just like I'm playing guitar solely, so I'm a lot more into my playing, into my sound, and the performance. Being in a band for anybody watching this that is in a band, which probably I would imagine a lot of people. The cool thing about a band is that it's never done. There's always
Right.
like a new adventure around the corner. If you wrote your best song, you've got to top that best song. If you
Right.
had your best show, you want to top that best show. If you hit a rough patch, you got to find your way out of it. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
and these are the things that keep it interesting.
Well, that's one of the things, and I'm glad you said that. That's one of the things I love about this life and this career choice. And it's like, if you have a bad show, you have tomorrow night to be better,
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
wipe the slate clean. You always get that chance. I don't know if you get that so much in other professions where it's like, oh my God, that sucked. And you get a real time chance to better yourself. Like, I'm just going to do better tomorrow,
Yeah.
you know?
I'm sure people in every walk of life have a good day and a bad day,
Sure.
uh, and that's I guess just as the drama of it being on a stage and there's lights on it. You know what I mean? It's like when you
Hmm.
play, and if you have a bad show, I would say 98% of the audience doesn't know it's a bad show one way or the other. You know
That's
what I
true.
mean?
That's totally true.
So much of it lives in your own head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, fuck, I just like, why did I leave that pedal open? Or like, I missed my cue for this, or like,
All
I'm
right.
mad at so and so because he missed his cue, or you know, or just like the energy wasn't right, or whatever. And a lot of those things, you know, some of them are in your power, and others it's just the way that it is. And
Yeah.
you know, it's just trying to work with your own psyche and the kind of like band morale and the group kind of consciousness to
Yeah.
keep pushing forward.
I don't know if you're like me, like sometimes I'm a sadist, and because you know, that show's going to be on YouTube almost like that night, you know.
Hmm.
And for me, I'll go and I'll YouTube like,
You want to
fuck, you
relive
know.
it?
Yeah, I don't know why. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. And you're because you're right. It's usually some nuanced little thing that only you know, and you know you fucked it up, and no one else knows. It's so fucking ridiculous. But you know,
like we played last night. One of my I'm like using 3 amps right now.
oh
Like I have
wow,
this new like monster guitar sound, and it's like amazing until it doesn't work. Like there's something loose somewhere in one of my things, and we found out, we figured out after the show, but like it just dropped out. And
oh
so I was like, God damn it, dude. It's like I lost a nut. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
for sure.
and you know, but you can't project that in the, you have to just keep playing and,
You
you
got
know,
to keep
be,
going.
be psyched on it, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I was really, but inside I was like, God damn it, I'm so pissed off. And then of course, like I get 3 compliments. Oh my God, your guitar sounds so good, dude. It's insane.
Uh,
So it's
so
like the people don't, you know, I mean, you have an idea of like way things should be or could be, like in your mind, like how this perfect thing could be, but the audience doesn't know that, you know, unless
no.
you signal it. If you throw a tantrum on stage, then the audience picks up, oh, something's wrong.
And that's the real deal. Like the people that have learned the art of not signaling something that's
Hmm.
wrong, that's when
Hmm.
you've been doing this for a while. You just
Yeah,
it's a learned behavior, you know.
yeah. I mean, you know, if you throw such a crazy tantrum that it's dramatic and it creates like a new part of the show, you know, like maybe that's fun. You know, you
Yeah.
smash your guitar or something, but I think it's better to just like have the wherewithal to be like, the people came here, they paid money to see the show. Like, why do you want to talk about some? So, oh no, one of my amps doesn't work the way I want it. Oh God, I don't want to pay to see that. I mean,
I don't
unless you
either.
throw like a really crazy tantrum that's entertaining, like
Exactly.
Brian Jonestown Massacre. Make it a
Yeah.
shtick.
Yeah. Get in a fight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get in a fight, punch the bass player or something.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
then, okay, that's entertainment.
Yeah.
But generally, you just kind of suck it up, try to fix it at soundcheck
Yeah.
tomorrow.
You know, I'm glad you brought up the records you guys have put out since you got back because you pulled off this really cool trick. And what it was you got back together after a certain amount of time with the Interiors record. And to me, because I was such a fan, it sounded as if you had never broken up. A lot of
Mm,
bands break up for a certain amount of time, they get back together and they make the record that they're sort of like 20 or 30-year-old selves would have made if they had made a record right after the record when they broke up. You
yeah.
guys made a record as the men you were at that moment in time that was undeniably quicksand, but it sounded as if you had put out records in between,
Mm,
you know, manic compression
yeah.
and where you were. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And I don't think I've heard other bands do it quite as successfully. And you sort of picked
Ah,
up,
thank you.
yeah, absolutely. You picked up right there creatively and you've continued on. I always thought that was really impressive. I think I told you that before, but it's really commendable.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, I think we not without trying to sort out, like, you know, that was in our head, like where would we be,
Yeah,
and but trying to hit a target of like, oh, what is a classic quicksand sounding thing. I just think, you know, I've heard bands try to do that, you know what I mean, like, oh, it's a return to form, you know what I mean,
sure.
and it just sort of sounds like a lesser version of them 20 years ago or something. So we just
Right.
kind of said, let's just go for where we're at now, and just when it feels like we're all stoked on it, then let's just live on that. And you know, and from doing that, I think we have like gained an understanding of who we are and where we're at
Sure.
now, like in this time. You know what I mean? Because
Sure.
I think Interiors was made sort of out of time, but I think it's very like honest to who we were at that moment.
Right. 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 Well, it was really impressive, you know, and again, you know, I got the can opener Dying Alone 7-inch
Mm,
before Slick
yeah.
came out, because I heard that, it was Walter from Gorilla Biscuits had started a new band,
Hmm.
and of course we were expecting a hardcore band, and what we
Hmm.
got was this thing that every band ended up trying to emulate in the 90s, I
Mm,
feel like,
mm,
and not doing a good job at it, or doing their own thing with it, and creating
mm,
this whole other thing that Quicksand had started. After I met you, I realized where that came from. You have that sort of mind about things, and it seems like wherever you go, you sort of innovate what is going to happen with that genre, whether it's hardcore or heavy music. Like, you know, it's funny how where metal took what Quicksand started. Quicksand was not a metal band, but you were heavy. You know,
uh-huh.
it was a heavy band, but not a metal band. But then the metal
Yeah.
bands got a hold of your thing and started what they did. Getting into your mind a bit, being able to create with you musically, I sort of saw where it came from. And I still
Hmm.
see what's happening, because you sort of go back to some of your old bands and you're still innovating with those bands. Is it
Mm.
something that you sort of push yourself to do creatively, or is it just something that just happens naturally for you?
I definitely want to do something exciting, that is not that's better than what you're expecting and slightly different.
Sure.
And also I'm just like on at this stage, like on my own creative path. I mean, obviously I'm within the realm of Quicksand, on with Alan and Sergio, and we have a certain aesthetic, and we're trying to like do things in a certain way, but I always want to be surprising and do something that, even when I was doing the hardcore stuff, I wanted to like do enough hardcore things that people would recognize it as hardcore, but try different stuff to like see where you can play with the expectations. And
Right.
you know, I think with Quicksand, with like the way you described it, I was still doing that. Where you're expecting a hardcore thing, but you get this other thing that has elements of hardcore that you could recognize, but is taking you to a different place. So, it's like, I think that's what keeps it interesting, to be honest. Like, that's just the way that I find it interesting. I would be down to be in a band that kind of like the Ramones, that like kind of just keeps delivering similar kind of
Right.
cool pop songs, but it just didn't turn out that way for me. So I like that challenge that I to put to myself, and I'm interested in so much different things. Like I'm not just fully into the kind of things that you might think Quicksand is drawing from. It's just a
Right.
very wide spectrum of influences. So I want to like incorporate so many different things because my taste is very broad.
It's another thing I realized from playing with you. Like, you brought in so many different elements, whether it be just, even offset guitars, a Jazz Masters and
Mm,
Jaguars, and a shoegaze element and all these other sorts of things. So here lately, you play with Gorilla Biscuits, you do Youth of Today where you play
uh-huh,
bass.
uh-huh.
You have Rival Schools where you've been playing with lately, and Quicksand. So we got to get Vanishing Life going again. But I found you seem to be more of a songwriter. Do you consider yourself more of a writer, paramount to anything else? Because you do. When I was introduced to you, actually visibly, it was the Combat Core video where Gorilla Biscuits and you were playing bass,
Yeah.
and somebody pointed out to me. I thought Purcell was you, and somebody pointed out
Ah,
to me like, "No, the guy with the bass, that's Walter Schreifels." I had no fucking clue, but I knew you were the guy that
ah,
wrote the music, and
yeah.
so I thought that was interesting because back then, the Start Today album cover, you couldn't tell who that was. You know what I
No,
mean? There's
no. Yeah.
sieves on the back of it, but you couldn't tell. And you played bass in Youth of Today. Is it more of like you are going to create with whatever instrument you just are going to play?
Yeah, I mean, I think at an early age, I fell in love with the idea of bands and like
Right.
how they look and what they sort of make you think. You know what I mean? Like the Ramones, for example, it's like these dudes from Queens, they wear leather jackets and the music is, the way that it is. Or, the Rolling Stones, like just the way that bands are and the kind of music that they just spark your imagination. So I'm in all these different bands and they kind of have different sort of ethos to them or a different kind of feeling. And
Yeah.
I don't really care. I don't think of myself as like, I think I'm probably best at bass playing, to be honest, is like, I think I feel the most comfortable on. But I'm a guitar player for sure. I love it. I get more into it.
Sure.
And I'm getting better. As a songwriter, yeah, I mean, I'm writing tons of songs, but I never see myself as like, okay, I've got to, get my acoustic out. And I don't see myself as like a singer or songwriter guy.
Right.
I just kind of get inspired through these different band concepts. And when I do solo stuff, it's me doing solo stuff. You know what I mean? Like, because I
Right.
also love solo artists. So I just fell in love with all these sort of ways of doing it. And I love doing production as well, where I'm working on someone else's music.
Right.
So anything that kind of ties me into it, but I guess I don't strongly identify even as like a singer, as a guitar player, a bass player, a songwriter. They're all just different sort of aspects of like creating that vehicle and getting the music
Right.
out and connecting with listeners, whatever, with people, with other human beings.
Sure. I just realized I saw you doing the solo thing. Remember in Australia,
Mm-hmm.
we came and
Oh
saw you
yeah, I
do
was psyched
solo.
when you guys. Yeah, I was psyched you guys showed up. That was a really fun show.
Yeah, it was great. You did
I love, I love the in music. Music allows me to like go all over the world and make great friendships and like where I could I bump it into my friends in Sydney, Australia. Like it's
yeah,
just cool. I love that.
yeah. That was before, geez, that might have been, no, we met you because Rival Schools and Rise Against played a show together. And then we saw you then, and then Autry put together Vanishing Life and sprouted our friendship. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so what's next? I mean, do you think Rival Schools are going to be recording again, or what's going to be happening, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff that we have. We have whenever we get together with any of these bands, we have a nice sound check or rehearsals, and we'll always jam. So we always record whatever is going on, and so there's always like material coming out of that. When that happens or when that makes sense, like I'm having a great time, but I've been really on a tear, so I need a bit of a break this summer. So
Yeah.
maybe start to figure out what's next. Right now I'm very focused on quicksand, so I'm going to be a little coy about it, but I think that's where we'll probably be hearing some new music.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this monster rig that you have, since that's
Ah,
basically. So, what have you got going on?
so I started on this tour doing 2 amps with a orange Rocker Verb 50, which is
Right.
pretty standard amp. A lot of people have it. I really like it because it's pretty basic. I don't love the runes of like, they don't have like, it doesn't say like mid, low, high. It doesn't say
Right.
like, it's just like these like symbols. That
Yeah.
drives me fucking insane. But the otherwise, it's a very cool, reliable amp generally, and for like a kind of like heavy, warm, distorted sort of sound that I think makes sense for quicksand. So I have that, but I also have my which you've probably seen, my 212 Marshall JMP, which
Right.
is
I
has
used it.
a
I used it
you've
when we
used it, yes.
when Vanishing Life record came out. We did like some in stores, and I used that amp. Yeah, it was a great
So
amp.
that amp, it's a great amp. It gets some gain, but it's more of like an ACDC kind of sound. It's not this like
Right.
modern kind of Metallica kind of sound. So the kind of like deeper fuzzierness of the orange combined with that sort of what I consider, yeah, more of an ACDC kind of rock
Right.
sound is a nice combo. And then I added to it. I was in Chicago a few days ago, and I picked up a JC40, which is a jazz chorus amp, and that adds a little bit of top, and I throw a touch of chorus on it. So as a single guitar, those 3 amps together, it's just got so much depth. And I think the chorus adds a little bit of a subtle hint of Bad Brainsiness or
Oh, sure.
kind of kind of bad Brian Baker-ness to it as well. And so I've just got this whole shebang together. But last night, one of the amps crapped out. I was chaining from my from the Marshall to the, I think, to the JC, and the signal just was weird. It sucked the life out of the Marshall. So anyway, live and learn.
Have we talked about that? Because we've nerded out about a bunch of shit like this. The late '80s era, like where the hardcore and punk bands added chorus, like most all of them with Doctor No, but then like 7 Seconds, Soul Force
Yeah,
Revolution, Brian Baker, like everybody added
yeah,
chorus at
yeah.
some point.
Let the record show that I'm the first one to be bringing that shit back, that corny
Yeah.
80s thing. But it sounded cool. It makes it sound like, yeah, it makes it sound like the Bad Brains.
Well,
So,
and you can never go wrong with that. You know what's funny? I was thinking about adding a little bit of chorus because you're right, with a solo guitar, it's kind of like what we were talking about when we saw each other not too long ago. With you being the single guitar up there, the chorusing will give it sort of a little bit of a breadth. It'll open it
yeah,
up more to where it might sound like there's a little bit of another guitar player, in a glimpse of it. You know what I mean? Um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. There is also that doubling thing I sent you. That
Yeah, which I haven't picked up because I'm playing right now. I need to get another cabinet because I got the Marshall and the Orange and now the JC next to it. I want to use that thing when I have a cabinet on the other side so I can get that kind of,
right.
maybe it would make a difference, but since it's like right at me, I just
The TC Electronics mimic, the MIMIQ
I'm gonna pick
mimic
it up though.
doubler pedaler. Yeah, it might give you a little thing.
But I did pick up the Loomer pedal that you recommended, and I love it.
Oh my God, isn't that insane?
It was great.
For those that don't know, the Keeley pedals make a pedal called a loomer, which is basically the My Bloody Valentine Loveless record in a box. So it's everything that you could imagine that Kevin Shields used on, which is one of my favorite records of all time. And I think yours as well. And we used it all over the new Rise Against record. And holy shit, it's just
It's
amazing.
really cool. It's just a very interesting fuzz, really. I mean, that's as
It
far
is.
as I've gone with it. It's a very, very cool pedal. And I think when the My Bloody Valentine thing, it definitely has that. Well, I think more so than the Kevin Shields pedal, which I just played
I think
recently,
I think so too, right?
ironically. But maybe that's by
Yeah.
design. He's like he's sick of his own shtick.
Yeah.
But it's a great
Stick with his own
pedal.
thing.
So thanks for that recommendation.
Of course, sir. Of course, sir. What are you guitaring on lately? Where have you been?
I've been primarily playing this Jaguar that I got from Fender, and it's but I kind of customized it a bit. My guy in New York, Tony at Main Drag in Brooklyn, shout out to Tony. He found these old vintage pickups, humbuckers that were spun by the dude that did. This sounds funny when I say this. Slash's guy. Slash's
Okay.
guy spun these pickups, and they're old
Okay.
vintage pickups. So I call this guitar "Sweet Child of Mine," and it's
There
got
you go.
like this heavy. It sounds like Slash. The
Yeah.
pickups are like they're not like modern, um, like Mesa Boogie Metallica kind of
Right.
sound,
Like high output. Yeah.
but yeah, high output, but they're toasty. They're fucking, you know, their appetite for destruction.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
can't. Fucking AFD.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so you have that power, but you're not, you don't get lost in, there's like a good. I guess I was talking about the sound with that I have through the rocker verb, where there's just this like good standard distorted guitar sound that makes everybody feel good and comfortable. I like that. That's cool. These pickups and on the Jaguar elevate you a little bit out of that,
I
and
gotcha.
it's really nice. So I'm playing that. I'm also been playing on this tour. I've been playing. I have a Greco Les Paul, like a '70s Greco,
Oh.
which is a Japanese.
Yeah.
They would make copies of U.S. guitars,
They're good
and
copies.
they're really really good. And it's a bit lighter than a Les Paul of the same era, and it's just got vibe. Like it's great. It sounds
Yeah.
fucking awesome. Looks cool. Feels great. Love it.
So is the Jaguar? Is it the Kurt Cobain signature model that already had the humbucker?
No, I put that one away for a little bit. I
Gotcha.
played that a lot. I find the body really, I mean, it's a beautiful guitar, and I just played it a lot. And I guess I started to find the body a little unwieldy for some reason, but this Jaguar is just a little bit lighter. The Kurt Cobain one is great. It kind of has like almost a Les Paul energy,
Oh, okay.
but the shape is obviously it's an offset. The Jaguar that I'm playing now is just I don't know, not all the Jaguars are the same, so it's a really nice one.
Good.
And these pickups just sound fucking awesome.
That's right. We had talked a bit about how you were looking for like a new guitar, like a guitar that was unto you. Remember that?
Yeah,
We looked at that weird, was it that Gretsch? I don't even remember that model
yeah,
number. Remember
yeah. It
that?
was a cool one. Yeah, Joe has one. I forget the name of
Yeah.
the model.
Shouts
I didn't
outs to
pick it up.
Joe.
Yeah, shout out to Joe. I might have to take another look at that. But you know what I realized is like I just like playing different kinds of guitars. You know
I
what I
do
mean?
too.
I guess I just played Les Pauls for a good stretch,
All right.
and so I kind of feel like I have some sort of association with that. But I've been playing Fenders for a very long time, a lot of offsets, so I think that's also a thing for me. When I first started, I played a Strat, so I just don't. I love SGs, but my SG that I have is too nice, and I'm kind of just more into Fender.
Did you record Start Today with a Strat?
It was a Strat, and it was like a very modded Strat. It had EMGs in it,
Wow.
and a Floyd Rose. It was all routed by Arthur Snillios, who actually I bought it off of, the bass player of Gorilla Biscuits. It's so heavy. I sold it when I was on tour in Europe for like $400, which is so
Wow.
stupid. And but I just didn't want to carry it. You know, I was like in Europe, and I saw the guy that I sold it to, like maybe within the last like 5-10 years. He came to a show and brought the guitar. You know, I would have thought like, oh, I want to buy it. You know what I mean? But it's like this guitar's too heavy. It's fucking
Yeah.
insane. I could never carry it. Between the Floyd Rose, the EMGs, and the wood, I don't know what the heaviest wood is, but it's made out of that. It's
It's
insane.
made out of whatever the heaviest wood is. Well, wait,
Whatever the heaviest wood is.
there was no nostalgia. You weren't like, oh, I
It
recorded
was
this,
cool. It
you
was
know.
cool to touch it again, and there's a Stussy sticker on it that I put on it.
Fuck yeah.
I think it would be a good you know what it'd be a good thing to buy off of him and then like donate to the punk rock museum
There you
in
go.
Vegas or something like that. That would maybe be the play.
That's what you should have done. Do you
Yeah.
remember? Well, let's go down the line. Do you remember what you recorded Slip with?
Slip, I think it was probably I had like a black Les Paul standard that I think I probably bought around that time. It was probably can't remember whether it was new or vintage or whatever, but just pretty basic black. Shit, I also had a gold top Les Paul that was 70s. I'm not sure if that played that on Slip. Yeah, Les Pauls,
I went
and
and
I don't have that black one anymore. It actually Sergio was going crazy on stage once, and his bass, he was like swinging his bass around, and he fucking like literally lopped off the top of my guitar with his
oh
bass,
shit.
like at the neck. It was just like, okay, great, there goes my guitar. It was done.
There it goes. Great.
Yeah.
I went and saw you guys on the Slip tour at Trees in Dallas, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember you guys were Mesa Boogie. You were using Mesa Boogies.
I think maybe Tom was. I was always a Marshall guy.
Amar, okay, okay. I remember Mesa Boogies being on stage.
I think Tom might have started playing Mesa Boogie because at that time Mesa Boogie were kind of hot shit, and he wanted to be hot shit. I guess
Yeah,
I don't know. To me,
yeah.
it was always Marshalls, and I always liked the JCM 800s. I have a Marshall head. It's not an 800. It's a you know, one of those like more old timey ones, but it has a gain on it. It's really
Gotcha.
nice. I don't bring it out because the 212 is plenty.
It's a great amp. You know,
Yeah.
it's probably a question for Sergio, but is Sergio straight up bass six now, like the whole show?
Yeah, he is because he started recording with it. So then, like, you know, he can play all the old stuff on the bass six, but he
Yeah,
can't play the new stuff on a bass. So he's all bass six. I do miss seeing him on a 4-string bass, but
sure.
he's kind of crafted something very special with the bass six, and he loves it. So you know, I think in ways he's really trademarking that. You know?
He really is. I mean, he's the only guy in like our style of music, like heavy or whatever it is we all do, that plays a bass six 100% of the time. I think it's
Yeah,
commendable. You know,
yeah. I
it's
mean,
pretty interesting.
it definitely is identifiable to him, and he does interesting stuff with it. So I love it, but I also just wouldn't mind seeing him play a bass too because it's a different thing.
Right, right. And
But it's
he's a great bass
and
player.
he's great at it. But it just doesn't logistically make sense, you know, to be switching out basses and doing,
Sure,
you know. I get it. So
sure.
it's just a lot of crap to deal with.
Absolutely. You know, thinking about the Vanishing Life record that we did, do you know there's not a humbucking pickup on that record? Because I recorded it with Davey Warsop. Shouts out to Davey Warsop, who produced that
Yep,
record or engineered
yep,
that
love
record.
them.
He had a Rickenbacker 360 guitar. I used that, and I used a Telecaster. I
Hmm.
think Jamie Miller's Telecaster. And you brought in that Harmony. Was it a Harmony
Yeah,
Rocket?
Yeah, it was a Bobcat, and
A
it's
Bobcat.
called a Holiday, but it's better known as a Bobcat, and it has gold foil pickups. Yes, there's no humbuckers on the record.
That's right. No humbuckers on the record at all. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
humbuckless.
Humbuckless. It's a humbuckless,
Yeah,
and it's a heavy record. It's a
it
heavy,
is.
aggressive record. There's not even a humbucker.
It
I
is.
take
Yeah,
pride in that.
it can be done.
It can be done. I take pride in that. You know, it was a real honor to play, be in a guitar duo guitartnership with you.
Yes, I would the same.
Yeah, so much fun. So much fun. So, have you had one? I always ask people this. Have you had one that got away? Something got stolen? I mean, you did just talk about your Strat that you sold, but like, has something got stolen from you that you wish you still had?
Quite a few. I had a gold top Les Paul that also the headstock got. I think it fell and the headstock broke off of it. That guitar was beautiful. The one that Sergio destroyed. So that's two Les Pauls that are gone. There was an SG that I sold that I shouldn't have. The Stratocaster I sold that I shouldn't have. I had a Martin that I had for almost 20 years. I left it in a van in Chicago in like the dead of winter. The van got fucking stolen. It got broken into. So the Martin got stolen. That hurt my heart a little bit.
Of course.
Um, I don't know. That's five right there.
I mean, that's a lot. That's a whole lot.
Oh, I had a white Telecaster, like a kind of Jeff Beck, cool Telecaster reissue that just went missing. I don't know where the fuck it is. It's just gone. It was on a tour, and then I was like, "Where did it go? It's gone."
You know that reunion show, like I think it was the first one you guys did at Webster Hall, I believe, in New York City. Tim and I
Uh,
came out. You were playing a Telecaster, like a Sunburst with black pickguard
yeah,
Telecaster. Am I wrong?
I
Do you
still
still have
have
that
that.
guitar? That's a cool
I still
guitar.
have that. Although that went missing for like a year or so, and
Jesus
I was,
Christ.
because I left it at a friend's house, and I was
Yeah.
like, "What the fuck happened to that guitar, man? Like that's a classic. That's a '70s Tele. Like that's a piece." And it's like I was blaming my nephew. It's like I didn't give you that guitar, you son of a little guy. You taking my
Yeah.
guitars. And my nephew's a really great guitar player. And I was just hanging out with a friend. And he goes, "Oh yeah, by the way, I still have those guitars at my house. Whenever you want to get them." I'm like, "What?" And it's like he has my Telecaster, and he has this other Fender. I think it's called. God damn it! It's like this little kind of short scale, and it's called like a level 3 or something. It's like some
Okay.
weird. Did it for a year in 1982 kind of guitar
Right.
that he has. So yeah, I still haven't picked it up from him, but I know where it is.
Well, you need to find that white Telecaster, it sounds like.
I mean, it wasn't like it was like from the '60s or anything, but it was just really cool, you know. So yeah, I'm pissed. I think it was left at Warsaw. I think it was left at a club, and you know, it wasn't my fault. It was the tech's fault.
Yeah.
But you know, what am I going to do? Sue him? I don't know.
It always irritates the shit on me when I can't. I know I didn't lose something, but I don't know where I put something. It always bugs the shit out of me, you know?
And when you have a lot of guitars, as you do and I do, and you're traveling all the time,
Yeah.
you have to accept that something's going to happen.
The variables, man.
Yeah.
Well, Walter, I won't take up much more of your time.
Okay.
You are on tour. You're in Lawrence. This is going to air a whole lot later, but I hope you have a great tour or rest of tour. How much longer you got?
We're out for another like week and a half, I think. So not too
Okay.
much longer, and then I got a nice break. So I'm gonna leave it all out there on the stage.
You should. You know, that's what you always do. That's how you do it.
I do.
Buddy.
I do.
Well,
I do.
you've always been a huge influence, and I've always loved everything you've done. And seriously, and you know, it's weird to say this because we're face to face and we're buddies, but one of the greatest honors was seriously having a band with you and making the record we made.
Oh man, I love that record so much, and
I do too.
always love seeing you, Zach, and I love that you're a guy that we can talk gear and talk guitar with, and I have so much respect, and I'm a fan of what you do. That it's really cool to have you as a friend and a colleague.
Absolutely, buddy. And someday I'm going to play on stage with Quicksand. It's going to happen.
We're gonna do
Someday.
it. We're gonna do it.
We're going to do it.
It's
We
there
have
for
to
you.
do it.
It's there for you, dude.
All right. Well, you heard it here, folks. Someday,
Yeah.
someday, I got to make that fucking happen. We've tried, and it's just
We've tried.
fuck
It's hard. It's hard. You know, you're a busy man. I'm a busy man. It's just
ships in the night.
yeah. But always great talking to you, man.
You too. You too. All right, Walter. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. Bye, Zach.
You know, I've been fortunate to have these sort of North Stars in my life, these sort of people that I've had, like with Walter, the honor and privilege of playing with, but also people, these sort of friends who I've been able to sort of ask for advice or been able to sort of model my own career, my own personality, my own approach, being able to ask questions. And Walter's one of those guys. I think you could hear he's just such a genuine, huge-hearted, amazing, generous artist and person, and just a lovely, lovely human being. I love the guy. At the end here, I would be remiss not to thank the folks over at Jim Dunlop and MXR Pedals. Find out what they're doing at jimdunlop.com. Also, the folks at DistroKid, they're helping you, the artist, put out your own records. They're doing great work. I'm going to leave you with an example of Walter's guitar playing. And this is hard because, man, I'm a huge fan. So it's hard to narrow it down. But as I told him, I got the 7-inch, the Quicksand 7-inch for a song called Dine Alone. And the B-side was Can Opener, a song called Can Opener. And I was so taken with it. And then when Slip came out, the first opening riff is a song called Phaser. You have to hear Phaser. But I'm going to leave you with the riff that started it all for me, which is the riff for Can Opener. So check this one out. It's a sort of indicative of where Walter was going. It's minor key, chugging and riffing, but there's still something so imaginative and creative about it. He flipped the entire hardcore and heavy punk influence, punk adjacent world on its head with this record. So check this out. If you're not already a fan, hopefully this will make you one. So thanks again. Thank you for listening, folks. Thanks for listening to the Anti-Heroes, and I will talk to you soon.
your advantages.